Tell us, in your opinion, what's the worst case scenario if, it's still theoretically an if, this military strike goes ahead?
Once the United States strikes, the Assad regime will pull its forces from isolated bases that are scattered all over the country. When that happens, jihadists from the Iraqi state, in the Islamic State in Iraq and Syria, or ISIS, will fill that void. They'll start moving into the provinces of Hama and Homs from the northern provinces, and they'll be the ones that will most benefit from an airstrike against the Assad regime.
Okay, so let's just talk about the opposition for a moment, because you have the Free Syrian Army, which is essentially backed by the West, but you also have the jihadists, if you like, who have come in from foreign countries.
Yes, well, we have the Free Syrian Army, which is mostly a nationalist, rebel-led alliance of about 1,000 militias, and they are pretty strong in the southern regions, but in the northern regions, they are weak vis-a-vis the jihadists, which is not only ISIS, but other Salafist groups such as Ahrar al-Sham. These groups are very well funded by the Gulf states such as Qatar, Kuwait, and Saudi Arabia, and they are the strongest forces on the battlefield, whereas the FSA is really in disarray, and most of these units have started to dabble in criminal activities and become corrupt and lost the support of the Syrian population.
Yeah, the jihadists, I think you make the point, or you have made the point in some of your articles, that they're better trained, they're better disciplined, and they know sort of how to wage this kind of war. But I'd like to, for you to listen to what, at least part of what the United States President had to say on Wednesday, part of his justification for military action.
We cannot see a breach of the non-proliferation norm that allows potentially chemical weapons to fall into the hands of all kinds of folks.
So does he have a good point? Will a military strike essentially stop those chemical weapons from being proliferated around the world?
Well, maybe proliferation around the world, but not in Syria. We see that this regime is willing to cross every red line put in front of it. It steadily escalated the fighting from opening fire with small arms to shelling to using fixed-wing aircraft and bombing people with MiG fighter jets. So we're not going to really see a change in Assad's calculus. And basically, this is a case of a little, too late. The window of opportunity for President Obama to really come into the war and shift the tide on the battlefield has changed. The United States had an opportunity when the FSA moved into the second largest city of Aleppo last summer. It seemed that the regime was on the brink of collapse, and the United States did not act. Now the window of opportunity is really closed, and basically Obama has to really step up to the plate and bring actions to back up his threat.
Okay, so if this military strike, a one and done, a couple of cruise missiles, cratering a runway and hitting a few command and control centers, if that is going to be futile and only embolden the jihadists in the north of the country, then what do you do now? What are the options here?
Well, there has been talk about arming the rebels. That's been talk on the table. I think that's been retracted because basically we know that jihadists are going to gain control of these arms. They gain control of arms that were imported from Croatia via Qatar and Jordan. What we need now is more special forces, training of certain FSA units to bring them up to par. You need to fund them, give them more money, because the jihadists have a lot of money to spread out on the ground, and you really had to give them better organization. That is a big problem that they have right now.